Hi everyone, I'm Anustup Mukherjee and I'm here with an amazing talk with how to tackle this kind of food problems, food strikes, as well as detecting the poverty lineups all over the world by using the power of artificial intelligence and itself the power of Python. Right. So just a little sentence for this problem statement that I'm going to discuss or this talk a little about this talk is all about how AI have a great contribution towards the field of health ITs, towards the field of educational LMSs, towards the field of even sports industry and etc. etc. But can you tackle the food problems that is going all over the world? Can you tackle the poor peoples? Can you help them? Can you connect some NGOs to the poor peoples? Can you help the NGOs so that they can reach to the poverty lineups of the world so that the situation of the food crisis that is happening all over the world will be little bit improved? Yeah. And can you make such kind of algorithms? Can we make such kind of algorithms that will be useful to everyone? Suppose I am a noob, but I can use that kind of power that is derived from the power of artificial intelligence by using some basic Python libraries or basic coded algorithms that can be useful to all, so that this problem is handly or user friendly in a manner, right? So can you just devote the industry this kind of situation? Yeah, this talk is all about that. Before starting my talk, I worked with OMDina as a lead AI engineer. There I worked at WRI in the same project that I am discussing right now. Also given 3+ companies in AI development, former research intern at IIT Patna, as well as worked a little bit on IIT Bombay, as if and etc. etc. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or my GitHub, right? So yeah, so this the problem statement that we are discussing right now, just in a single quoted sentence from Theodore Skulls. Yeah, most of the people in the world knew the economics entire thing. Most of the people in the world if you want to tackle the problem of the poor people, if you want to tackle the problems related to the poverty, you need to know what is the statistical distribution of the data. Because if you know about the data, if you know in which particular place of the world the poor people or the poverty lineup is actually being stranded off, then you can obviously contribute to the part, detect and connect the NGOs to that particular part, so that people might reach. If you want to help, you can just check on the data and reach to the part. That's it. So yeah, so before directly coming to any algorithm based work, we have to take some kind of statistical analysis of from different parts of the world, right? Like most of the people, if there is a poverty, there might be the problem in not only in a food crisis, there might be a problem in education, there might be a problem in development of the entire society, as well as there might be a problems of several natural degradations, hunger crisis, as well the violence rate, the decrement in the productivity rate will be increased as well. So these are the problems that poverty can lead to. A problem in education, as well as you can might tell the peak of a nation's improvement will be so much down, right? So yeah, these are the things. Like if you can handle this ended problem of the poverty, at least by some kind of resource providing, at least you can detect it and provide the resource to that poor people. Many of the NGOs come across from all over parts of the world. They want to reach to that poor people, but most of the time, what happens to them is they cannot find which particular part or which particular area is actually poverty stricken. 90% of the cases happens what the poverty stricken area which are in a front line or in the in a city or in a proper way that can be reached, there the people used to go, but actually the place where the help is actually needed, they remains in the backward. So these are the problems. So yeah, so before coming to the another part, I want to tell about my talk outline. I will be telling about how deep learning is helping us, or how artificial intelligence is helping us in detecting that kind of backend poverty zones, detecting which area is actually poverty stricken, which area is facing actual economic crisis. From the data coming from the satellite imageries, will be training a model or AI model that will be having the power to detect them, as well as when the area will be detected, it will be connected to the proper NGOs or the caregivers. That's it. Along with that, I will be speaking about some kind of AI innovations in Python that is tackling the world poverty as well as the hunger, and some kind of economical models and statistical data in my talk. That's it. These are the three steps. So coming to the very first step of my talk, like you can see about this kind of statistical data, how much of health crisis is being present over there, how much surveys is being taking place. Like what the approach right now the era is following. They are considering many types of surveys. Through that surveys they are trying to detect the data of the poverty, but this is not the right way, because 90% of the cases in the surveys the data is coming to us the dummy, right? So there is a problem of the huge data scarcity, which is again giving a result of untackled poverty problem. So these are some kind of statistical mappings here we can see about the previously expected data over here. Now come to the question, or now come to an algorithm. Like, so if I cannot rely on the data, if I cannot rely on the statistical data or any kind of survey data, or if I cannot really rely the data that we are actually seeing, then what is the second way? The second way is you can take an example from the satellite imagery. Like you can easily get this kind of satellite imagery from the open source data sets. Open source data sets, for an example, Google Map API you can use. You can use Planet Labs. You can use Skybox. You can use Landsat data. Many types of open source data is being present over there, which is actually you have on that particular open source data sets. You have to write the place for which you need a specific satellite imagery. Suppose I am writing for India, Maharashtra, or India, Kolkata, right? I am speaking about any place, right? It will be giving me a satellite imagery of this kind of things. So now the question that comes in everyone's mind, then what will happen if I get the satellite imagery? Because a satellite imagery is actually a skeleton of a particular area. It will be showing some pictures of the vegetation distribution. It will be showing the picture of the population distribution. It will be showing about the land mass versus water index. It will be showing about rivers and this kind of data that is actually geographically understandable. But here is the power of algorithm comes. Like, can we change this kind of metrics of geography to a decision making capability of a model? That this is our problem statement. We are changing this kind of geographical indexes, for an example, land index, water index, population index, this kind of indexes into a decision making capability of a deep learning algorithm. Let's see in the most about that, right? So now a question that comes in our mind, like, okay, so now I am very clear with my problem statement. Like, okay, I'm very clear, like I have to first pick out a statistical data, pick out a satellite data, and then I have to understand a metric. Suppose what is the land index of a particular area, what is the water index, and enter etc things. So based on that I can pick up a deep learning algorithm and train it, based on like fixing some kind of metric based parameters. I will be telling how these parameters will be fixed in the later part of the talk. But before that we need to know what type of learning we are actually heading over here. So generally, there are several kind of researches being already carried on in this kind of data scarcity problem or in this kind of poverty problem. So there, many of the people are using supervised approach. Why? Because they are using the data that is coming from the surveys. Actually, they are using the survey data, and the survey data is actually a very few in amount, and like it is obviously improper. That the levels were not proper in that particular data, as well as the entries in the data was dummy. Most of the entries are unconsiderable. So on that particular case we have to use a supervised learning, because we are having a limited end or limited approach of the particular data. So there we can use the supervised learning. But here we are changing the problem statement or redefining the problem statement of the poverty line of detection into a different way. Like, we are taking the input from the satellite imageries. Now the question that comes in our mind, if suppose I am training my model for suppose India, Bombay, right? India, Bombay. So I am getting entire kind of satellite imagery of that particular place, and I am fixing the metrics. For an example, land index, for an example, vegetation index, for an example, water index, for an example, population index. And based on considering these indexes as a metrics of training, I have trained a deep learning model to detect the poverty lineup of the Bombay area. But will I have to again retrain my model if I want to predict what is the poverty lineup distribution, or what is the poverty lineup being present on Calcutta or Delhi? So no, because here you don't need to train it, because the metrics remain same, because we are using the power of transfer learning. Transfer learning means the change of learning on different data sets, but model and the training parameters remain same. That's it. So this is the approach that we are following to handle the problem. So yeah, so how does this matrix being made of, or how does this matrix power is being distributed of, right? Or how we are actually tackling this matrix over here. So this matrix tackling is a very important concept over here, because what we are doing, again, we are changing some kind of geographical matrices into decision making capability. So decision making capability, think as a layman. Like, suppose you are visiting to an area, and in that particular area you are seeing here the vegetation is very less. That means there is no forest, there is no greenery, only it is a place of concretes. So you will be automatically speaking like, okay, this means like the people who are economically more standard used to live in these particular places, because you will be seeing big apartments, big houses, etc., etc. So this is the first decision statement that you make at your brain. That means if the vegetation indexes go down in a particular place and if the population index increases, so there might be a development in the economical standard on that particular place. Alongside, if you go to a particular place, that is, if you are going to a village area or any rural area, there we see there is a lots of vegetation being present over there, and population index is not as high as the cities, right? Actually less. So here I can see if the vegetation index goes up at a certain point, and if the population index goes down at a certain point or a certain place, then I can say maybe this area is not so much economically developed. This is a very basic business understanding. Another way that we can detect of is, suppose we can detect several kind of buildings or number of buildings being present on a particular area from the satellite imagery. If we can say if the number of buildings being present of a particular area is more, if it is being more in number, then obviously that particular area is being more economically standard. So in this way we are changing the geographical matrices into a detection parameters. This is the way that we are following. Now what kind of algorithm that I am using? I am using ImageNet over here, because firstly I need to do what? Object detection. Why object detection? Because now I will be distributing my problem statement or approach in some kind of algorithmic way. So why I'm telling about, or why I'm speaking about the object detection, it's because of like you are getting a satellite imagery in your hand and you have to first detect what you, in which particular area there might be a vegetation, in which particular area there is a river, in which particular area there are some buildings, etc., etc., and etc., right? So this is what you have to detect the objects, because these buildings, river, forestry, these entire things are the entire objects. So you have to first detect an object. Now you might tell like what are the ways that you have followed to detect this kind of objects, because it is all about the satellite imagery, because you will be getting the image from the top view, you cannot see it from the in front of you, right? So yeah, I have followed the approach of the ImageNet as well as with some touches of the segmentation, some predefined APIs that will be helping in detecting the objects, because ImageNets have a better accuracy in the segmentation flow as well as detecting the objects, right? So I have first did the object detection and segmented out which is the building, how much buildings are being present over there, which is the forestry, what is the area of that, where is the river present over there, and how much area it is being comprised of, right? The next that question comes in our mind after detecting the objects. I have to say like, okay, if the situation, if the satellite imagery is a nighttime satellite imagery, if it is not a daytime satellite imagery, so during the nighttime satellite imagery, what will be my detection parameter for the buildings? So I have considered to it as a light intensities, because during the nighttime, obviously when you see in a satellite imagery, I will be showing the live demo right now. You can see the satellite imagery. You can see because at a night time, like each and every buildings will have some kind of glowing lights. So if you can detect it as a height intensity, if you can fix the intensity, I need to only detect the areas that is having the yellow lights. So you have to fix the particular light intensity and train your model. It will be automatically returning you, okay, this much of area that is covering this light intensity is being detected to be a building areas. That means here the concrete is being present, rest part is the vegetation. You can calculate easily the ratios, right? So these are the ways, these are the two ways that I have followed for the daytime and the nighttime images, and directly detecting the vegetation and etc indexes from a daytime satellite imagery. That's it. So now I have the indexes of each and everything. So now come to a demo that I want to show. Yeah. So this is an example being taken from the area of the Rwanda, Africa. Like this is a nighttime satellite imagery. This nighttime satellite imagery, what algorithm I am taking to deal with this problem is simply I am doing nothing. I am first taking this data as an input and fixing the light intensity. That means I want to detect the area which is having a intensity of the yellow light intensity. So it will be returning me this area of the population, and rest this area. Suppose you are speaking about this or speaking about these areas are populationally less advanced. That means here might be the vegetation count is more. So this is how I am dealing the nighttime problems, right? So what kind of data sets is being taken to deal this problem? I use the DHS data set around the data set. It is an open source data set, so no need to pay for the data, right? Now the question that comes in our mind, right? Like, okay, I am now having that kind of nighttime imagery. What will be my next step? Like, first you have to detect the indexes. Here you can see I have done the work of detection of the indexes. Like, this is the population zone, this is the wealth index. That means which particular area. That means wealth index is calculated in this particular manner. If the thing, like if the cluster, like if the cluster, the place where the cluster is generating, how to generate a cluster, the area where it should having a more amount of the data points. So there a specific cluster will be generated. A place where a cluster is generated at a higher index is telling to be more economically advanced, and the rest places is spoken to be the less economically advanced. How, what kind of wealth index, what kind of clusters I am speaking all about? These clusters are generated by taking the matrices at the back end: vegetation index, water index, population index, building index, etc. Based on that, a cluster is generated like this, and it is speaking like in this entire map, this particular area is more economically advanced, and other places is less. Like, it is giving you a pure breed legend by a deep learning detection. That means, okay, this area is more economically advanced, this area might be less, this area might be medium. Now if I pass this data to any NGO, they will be directly detecting these areas. Okay, okay, it's I can easily understand. Okay, then if I need to work, if I need to help any poor people, I can say this: most of the poor peoples or most important poverty lineup is present on this particular area of Africa, Rwanda, right? So this is the way how we are tackling. Now another important that question comes in our mind. Now come to a detailed analysis of an algorithm, because I'm speaking about a very overview concept. Now if I come to the very detailed analysis of the concept or detailed analysis of an algorithm that I am using, then you can see here input satellite imagery is being taken over here, right? And here each and every matrices is being judged in this manner by a pixel value analysis, right? As well as the distances in between the each and every pixels being qualitated, or each and every distance, each and every pixel distances is being calculated because of considering it to be in the object detection phase, right? So this is the way. So you can see the high resolution map of the area that we have just plotted over here. Here it is being plotted in a 3D manner. Then it directly speaks like, okay, this area and this area are more economically developed. That means it is more economically clustered. That means here the wealth index is high. Then you don't need to go in that place. But then what is the poverty line? What is the poverty line of the area that we are speaking is Rwanda? It's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. Right. So if I pass this single image to any NGO, they can easily speak about, okay, by the power of deep learning, I can use this, and okay, and I will be having this kind of return library, or I will be having this kind of return image that will be speaking about my population indexes, and my problems is solved. So now let's back to the second part of the talk. So now many of you might think like, then okay, what help like this problem solve will be giving to us, like what kind of help it will be helping to us. So yeah, so suppose what happens, like again I am repeating my problem statement. If you are an NGO worker, and if you want to help poor peoples, or if you want to donate some kind of free funds, if you want to speak others like, okay, I want to give foods to this kind of peoples, then how can you find them? Because if you go to Google it, then obviously we'll be only getting registered localities, like the localities which is already in the eyes of Google. If you are asking any other fellow NGOs, they will be also speaking the same, because they are again and again be using the Google. If you're relying on the survey data sets, then obviously results are dummy. Then how can you reach that mass who actually needs your help? So this is the power. So now see, now we will be coming to several kind of AI innovations that is being done already in the market to tackle this problem of the food crisis, right? So the first thing I want to tell about a drone right now being developed at Japan. Like most of the things, like what the AI industry is speaking, like suppose like there is several kind of diseases is coming right now. Like we are all coming from a situation of the lockdown. Like in the lockdown, like most of the people cannot take care of their agricultural crops, etc., etc. Many other problems was present over there. So on that time, what happened, like several kind of bacteria or the viruses which was not dominant in the previous cases now got dominant because of the improper care, right? So can you make an artificially intelligent system that artificially intelligence system detect what is your crop health, how much crop volume should be present over there, and if it is not present over there, it will be automatically taking the picture of that particular crop and sending to the desired authority, and an authority will judge whether this crop has grown the bacteria or not. Yes, this drone is all about that. This drone captures each and every crop volumes. This drone speaks about the crop's health, whether it is healthy or not. Or sometimes it also has the power to detect which kind of bacteria it is already having. So yeah, this is the one of the amazing innovations being done by the power of computer vision and image processing. So they are actually using several kind of computer vision models of image detection and image classifications at the back end of the drone, right? So now another question that comes in your mind, like if I am growing some kind of crops, and suppose I want to have several kind of traits of a particular cotton. Suppose you are a cotton dweller and you want to have you want to develop this much of traits of cotton, right? Or suppose several times happens like I want to yield a huge amount of rice, and suppose the rice I am right now planting is giving me very good yield. Next year it is very insecure or very uncertain, like same yield of rice or same breed of rice I will be getting to plant, right? So how can you do that? How can you preserve this? How can you preserve this in an upcoming days? Yeah, this is a model that takes like generated by the AI. It is called AI DNA sequencing model. AI DNA sequencing model used to use the genetic algorithms or genetic propagations at its backend. It do not, I think it's a little system being connected with the crop, and if a crop is yielding good, it actually extracts out the particular DNA area of that, and automatically in an artificial environment it copies a numerous replicas of that particular DNA and generate more traits from a single trait. So you can preserve that particular traits and you can have a better yielding year after an year. So obviously it's a boom. It will be improving the agricultural systems, right? So this is a very basic example. Another example being also used as China right now. They are using a robotic pruning of leaf. Robotic prunings of leaf means like in most of the cases, if I speak about paddy, if I speak about wheat and many other crops, in that, but even if there are many fruit yields, there are many like agricultural yields that is actually having some kind of problems, where sometimes what happens, like some kind of bacteria used to come, they used to degrade the leaves of that particular plant, they used to degrade the stem of the particular plants, but that kind of bacteria are heavy in nature. So suppose if you are like shaking the tree at a certain moment, or if you are just cutting the affected leaves at a certain moment, your situation might be cured. So this kind of work is being done by China by using the power of robotics. That's it. So this is how we are handling the global food crisis. Like global food crisis only needs a single end problem, like improving the yield. More yield, then more decrement in the food prices and a minimum cost. So actually, yes, the drone is saving us from the bacteria invocation. This is preserving the best traits for us that will be giving us an enough and enough productivity and etc. Amazing things. So now I will be coming to AI innovations that is tackling actually the food wastage problems. So what do you mean by a AI innovation? Because like in the food wastage system, because another being a major crisis in the food systems, like in a food crisis or in understanding the poverty lineups is the food wastage. Because suppose you are going to market and you are buying 10 apples, but you are only a single person in your family. You thought like I will be eating that 10 apples over 3 days, but you have bought etc foods also, then and suppose you have eat only 2 apples, then the rest 8 apples will be get rotten and they will be thrown down in the basket or in, in your wastage basket, right? So this is how the food wastage is being increasing day by day. For an example, if you're buying the 10 apples but eating only 2, then the rest 8 are wasted, then you are eating actually, then you are destroying the food of other 8 people. So can I use the power of AI that will be detecting which food is not actually being thrownable, which food you cannot throw, and which food you can throw? So this is the logic of the AI smart bin. So AI smart bin is such kind of wastage basket. Suppose you are eating something and you are going to throw it on the road, it will be giving you an alarm, right? Hey, don't throw it on the road. Come to me and throw me. This is the power of AI smart bin. Not only that, if you are eating suppose Coca-Cola, if you are drinking Coke and going to throw that can on the road, it is giving you an alarm. Hey, come throw it into me. And if you are still not throwing, it will be directly informing the local management, and local management will be taken care of. And the power of this AI smart bin is not only stopped over here. They are also using the power of computer vision. Suppose that I am getting back to the example of the apple again. You are about to throw that 8 apples, and this AI smart bin, by using computer vision, detected these 8 apples are okay to eat. Why are you throwing it? Then it automatically segment out that 8 apples. Like it will be not enable you to throw that. Like this, like the shutter of the bin get closed without throwing. The power of the AI smart bin, like smart bin. So another power of computer vision, as well as the implementing the sensors technology in AI, is the accurate demand forecasting. Accurate demand forecasting means what happens in our refrigerators. Most of the foods we are keeping in our refrigerator for day longs. We don't even want to eat it. And after some days, after when you are getting out the food is actually getting rotten. So what happens if your refrigerator can speak? This kind of accurate demand forecasting is actually like that. There are three powers of this refrigerator. The first power is it can moderate its temperature by its own. Like it detect which kind of food is present in the refrigerator at a majority level. Can you can you say can you just change your temperature based on that particular food? Because several bacteria goes on several temperature limits. So if your refrigerator can moderate its temperature by its own by detecting the nature of the food, like it will be a boom, right? Because a refrigerator can moderate the temperature accordingly. The bacteria that are growing will be killed on a proper temperature. Actually this is actually it is doing. So how it will be detecting which kind of food is being present over there? Simply a image processing. Even you can train your own model by using OpenCV in Python, right? Another important thing is, suppose we're keeping a food for a long lasting period, and a refrigerator is saying, okay, this is the actual period that this food can be kept inside me, but the person is like removing the limit, like person is creating into the limits. Yeah. So then it will be giving an automatic alarm in your smartphones. Like automatically it is connected with your smartphones and giving an alarm, hey, take out this food, otherwise it will be getting rotten off. That's it. So this is the how we are just changing the food waste problems. Another important thing is being right now is going to happen on the upcoming years, maybe 2 to 3 years, like is the IoT based 5G blockchain technology in AI. By using the power of AI, that will be actually tracking the wastes. Not only waste, that will be also speaking about the supply chain, that will be speaking about the waste management, that will be speaking about several kind of illnesses. For an example, there are 5 waste bins in an area, and you are stepping out your home to throw your waste. It will be automatically giving the message to your phone, hey, go to that waste bin. There it is still not overfilled, you can put it over there. Now you have put your waste on the waste bin 1. Now it will be detect waste bin 1 is connected with which particular area of the waste management. It will be sending a proper waste area to a proper waste management system for a proper system of the processing of the waste. So this is all about using the power of computer vision, AI cameras, IoT things, IoT chips, sensor technology, and obviously the power of 5G, because this entire management is quite impossible for the without 5G. And why we need blockchain to it? Because blockchain is giving us the power of the encrypted securities. Blockchain will be giving us the power of some kind of digital values that might be, we can just embrace some kind of digital wallets. If you throw the food waste at a proper place at a proper time every day, we can reward you with kind of digital currencies. So this kind of this kind of powers can be enabled by using blockchain into it. So come to the very third part of this talk, like several other innovations of that. Like yeah, like this kind of thing is right now being developed of, like this kind of thing is being like, it's still on a research, but I will be not speaking like it is in the production. But yeah, it is already patented over Japan. So this is a special type of robot that is getting to develop, that can interact with the user. That means like it can visit house to house, it can interact with the user, it can check whether the user is using the food resources in a proper way or not. It can, suppose a user is throwing a coke at the dustbin, or no, not at the dustbin, suppose it is throwing the coke bottles in the, like any plastic bottles in the, like in the drains, it will be stepping inside the drain and it will be picking up that particular bottles over there. And like it can serve serve people in decision making, like where to throw the food and when not to throw the food, as well as it will be speaking about a food judgment procedure. But this kind of combat robot, AI combat robot in the food crisis, is still in a research stage, because another most important revolutionizing idea behind this robot is, like, if there is a waste food is being present or any waste basket, and if this robot detects this food can be used, it will pick up that particular food and undergo some kind of processing and give it to the pauper poor people. We can embed several kind of deep learning algorithms at the back end of this robot to detect the poverty lineups. That's it. So yeah, another example I want to speak from the India is, like, in India a campaign is happening right now, as well as for over some years, is the Kailash Sahatyarthis Bachpan Bachao program. So in this program, what the person is doing, the person is using the power of artificial intelligence to detect the child labor, to detect the poverty among the small guys from the small children's, and segment out that particular childs or particular children's, and finally giving them proper food, proper education system, proper householding, etc., etc. How the person is using the computer vision in it, the person is actually targeting the cameras, several kind of CCTV cameras that is being present over India in the, like, suppose in the crossings, several kind of crossings, or in streets as well. CCTV cameras is being present over there, and we can see many small guys or many small children are roaming from one place to another place in the road. So this AI camera is to detect that face of that kind of child or face of the people, and it used to use a very basic classification algorithm, like, to detect whether this person is a beggar or not. And if this person is detected as a beggar, then finally its details is being shared to the government's database, right? And in the government's database, they check the age and etc. kind of things of that particular beggar, and finally track that particular person and get them segmented out of this beggary. This is a revolutionizing thing that is being happening right now under Digital India in the Kailash Satyarthis program of Bachpan Bachao. So yeah, this kind of organization I want to speak, they are using the power of computer vision, artificial intelligence in food security, tackling the drought problems, tackling the food crisis, and etc. thing. Among that, the World Bank as well as WRI, World Resource Institute, is trying to save several, is collaborating with another big companies like OMDina, etc., for detecting several, using deep learning algorithms, collaborating with several AI researchers in the field. So now come to the last but not the least part of the talk. There are several kind of economical modelings that is being present that we used to use at the back end of our research. Like, in that, I want to speak about some kind of economical models that is more important, that helps us. One is the, like, this kind of Hurtel and Anand's paper that speaks about the water scarcity and the poverty. From here we have picked up the logic of the water index calculation. Along with that, I want to speak about the potential impact of the trade facilitation of the poverty. It speaks about several kind of political crisis, political demands. It speaks about a new index. If any particular area, if the politics is more advanced and the politics is going to snatch up the wealth from the people who have money, but actually the poor peoples will not be getting a proper help. So this kind of trade facilitation is being taken care of in this particular paper. They are also dealing in the particular industrial areas. A class of people is being developed in an economical point of view, but most of the people is not being developed over there. That's it. So this kind of papers were taken care of. And another important data sets, that another approaches that we can speak, so to analyze which area is more economically powered or not, to detect the poverty lineup, is one of them is detecting the transaction rates. Transaction rates means, suppose you are living in a city, obviously you can have details of the passbook from a bank. If bank use some kind of algorithm on the passbooks of each and every users, and can detect the user who are doing a maximum transactions to a bank, they are economically advanced. But the person who are doing nothing, or persons who have very less savings, they are poor people. The bank or the government need to help that particular thing, and you need to use a very basic detection algorithm. You can use Aadhaar card detection, you can use transaction detection, several kind of things you can do over there. Along with that, you can just you can just track the income rates of the particular person from the several kind of the survey databases, as well as I will not rely on the any kind of survey datasets. For that reasons, I have used the datasets that is being coming from an authentic source of the satellite imageries. Another approach that I have wrote in a pay hyper is you can take care from the NSS or the assets, because most of the people are investing in mutual funds, several kind of company policies. If they are investing, then they have money. And the persons who are not investing, detected out of the Aadhaar card detection or any government detection, the persons who are not investing, they doesn't have money. So this kind of basic analyzing points, or this kind of basic poverty analyzing points, will be changing the entire scenario of the food crisis. So yeah, these are the papers like I have been referred of, but there are very big problems, like very big problems, as well as the complex systems like I need to speak about in the upcoming days, because most of the peoples are doing miscreations of these AI models. Most of the people will not be like helping these AI engineers or this entire technology to be get into the market. And the greatest problem is the education system. Like we need to also collaborate alongside with the poverty systems, with the educational LMSs, like because if both goes hand to hand, like food for all, education for all, then the system might get improved. And all about the privacy, data security, this might be always the biggest problem while handling the problem. But yeah, if we collaboratively work in this particular problem, then yeah, like using the power of artificial intelligence, it might bring a change. Like in India, they are using Atal Innovation Commission, like you using the power of Niti Aayog, they are digitalizing the education, they are digitalizing the food crisis, they are digitalizing the food innovations, like using the power of AI under this Digital India campaigns. Not only that, like in America also, like United Nations Development Program used to give the funds to several NGOs. You can speak about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who used to invest in AI technologies. We can speak about the OMDNA. We can speak about the several banks like Asian Development Bank, BRICS Development Bank, who used to invest in this kind of works, as well as Japan is investing on the robotics being technologies that is being doing the food innovations, and several other startups is being also working on them. So this is all about my talk. Like if you can change the food innovation, you can change the food industry, you can change the crisis of these things by a simple techniques of detection. Not I am not speaking about amazing algorithms of generative learning or amazing algorithms of deep learning. Only a simple Python keras libraries. Like obviously you used to train a deep learning model by using the power of keras. So you have to train a single keras detection algorithm on a proper data set with a proper metric. Simple a Python keras library will make the change, because Python keras library you can embed on IoT. If I'm speaking from Raspberry or Arduino, anything, a single training will make the change. A single training can save a million lives. A single training can change the database of the database that we are contemporary database that we are having. Can single people can connect a person who want to help and a person who need the help, actual needy. So that's it. The last line I want to tell: import AI from hacking the hunger. Thank you.